Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's NSA Connect session. When fluency strategies aren't enough, how counseling can help. We're really excited about tonight's session, and we have two fantastic facilitators tonight. Let me just quickly introduce myself and go over tonight's ground rules. Pamela Mertz. I'm a longtime member of the NSA, and I am often the person that you see behind the face of the NSA Connect sessions. Tonight's session will be recorded for later viewing, and for those that were unable to attend tonight. We're going to ask that during the session, please keep your microphones muted until it comes time for questions, and CJ and Lauren will let us know that. When it comes time to interact, you can do that one of three ways. If you want to ask a verbal question, you can raise your hand the old-fashioned way. You can use the icon down on the toolbar and raise your hand like that. And then there's also a lower hand icon as well. And you can also use the chat box as well to type out questions. So without further ado, I would like to introduce tonight's facilitators, CJ and Lauren. Take it away and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you all for letting us do this. This is a topic I know for me is a very passionate topic. So yeah. But
yeah, I was just gonna say, I would agree too. This is something CJ and I talk about quite a bit. And I feel like it's a pretty hot topic as of right and now. So
but hi everybody. So my name is Chadwick Hedgepeth. You guys know I'll call me CJ. I'm a speech language pathologist. And currently work in Virginia. And I'm a lifelong stutterer. So stuttering is a big part of my life, and a big reason why I went down the field of speech pathology. And stuttering therapy is a passion of mine. So yeah, I'm so glad to be here.
And hi everyone, my name is Lauren. I am a speech therapist. I used to work in the schools, and I currently work in outpatient. Same thing as well. I have stuttered since I was 3-ish, and it's definitely been a long journey. And obviously there's been ups and downs, but kind of like what CJ said too, because of the experiences I've had, this is kind of why I got into the field, and this is an area that I feel very passionate about. So yeah, we're gonna get started today. We did just want to preface too that this connects is more specifically for people who have had fluency strategies, or if they're trying to find a speech therapist, and kind of working towards a little bit more on that counseling. So
yeah, and also we really wanted this to be as interactive as possible, so please feel free to just jump in and ask questions, or just there's just go for it. But so we do have some prompts here, hopefully to get us kind of started. But we were curious if anyone here in the audience has had speech therapy before, and what has that speech therapy kind of looked like? Anybody want to just start us off?
Adam said, I have had enough therapy. Yeah.
All right.
Oh, he said he had the 4-week intensive in July of 1996. I would love to know more too.
Right. I'm not even sure what that is. So
Temporary results all relapses.
and
Yep.
Tanya, if you wanted to unmute, you can go for it.
Yes, I have had speech therapy all of my life. School age when I was in elementary as a teenager, shortly after that, when I was in the army, after the army, and I would say in speech therapy, um now I realize they were trying to fix a problem that isn't a problem. I was never told it was okay to stutter. I was always told that I needed to do certain things in order to stop. And I don't know how I mentally got through that because I was told not to be me so many times. But now I know, and I wish I knew then. And it is astonishing that there are speech therapists who stutter. I never knew that was an opportunity that I could actually get into. I just never knew it.
I was going to say, if I have talked to a ton of people who have kind of had the same experiences where they have been in speech therapy that only really focused on the fluency strategies aspect, and they've said the exact same thing that you have, that it's hard to hear, that it's hard to be told that you have to be fluent and you have to do the strategies over and over again, when in our brain, like, that's not necessarily possible. It's not something that can be attainable. So it puts like a very heavy hole in your heart. So it's tough. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'd like to follow up with that too, that Tanya said. Um I have I haven't had a speech therapy since high school. But yeah, we were never taught, but think I also think too, and I think that there's such a need, I'm trying to get to this need too, of the mental aspect of it. Um, um, a lot of SLPs, I think, and this is not their default, but they they just focus on the the physical part. They don't focus on the mental part. And and I agree with her too. I never knew. Well, I had a speech therapist who somewhat stuttered too, but I didn't know that very many could, or that did, stutter at the time. But I I think it's more, there's I think there should be more focus on the mental aspect of the therapy, because speech therapy, at least, I can only speak for me, that when I was called called out of class, like we all were in school and we all did things, and okay, it's time for speech, and they say that from in front of a 30 of your friends. Well, you'd go down and you'd read a couple sentences, and then you'd to get a piece of candy, and then to go back. So I and of course you spoke well, because it was a person that understood. But all that being said, I do think there's a great need for speech therapists, and I think what they do or you guys do is great. So that's all I'm saying. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, same thing too. I did the same thing when I was a kid. They pulled me out of class to do strategies over and over. And as I'm talking to them, I'm like, wow, this is great. Then I go home and I practice at home. And obviously it doesn't work out or doesn't stick. So yes. Annabelle, I think. Oh, sorry, go ahead, CJ.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
Nope, that's okay.
For me, so I had my first speech therapy services when I was in college. So like I was around 18 years old. And the speech therapy that I received, it was about fluency strategies. So like there I learned about the light contact, easy onset, prolongation, breathing support, diaphragm, and like I'm a calming breathing techniques. And I continued to use them for like several years until I got to a point where my whole speech pattern just changed. And then I had new trigger words. I was struggling a lot more than before, and I didn't know what was going on. So then now, I was literally trying to find a way to speak how I was speaking before, and it wasn't until that I began my new speech therapy service that I realized how much it was mental challenges and like emotional challenges that I was having, and it was maybe like 1% was really about the actual stuttering mechanism. So
I think someone else did. Tanya, did you have your hand raised again?
Yes. So to piggyback off of what Rob had said, and also Annabelle, I recently asked for mental health therapy surrounding my speech stuttering, and I'm actually in it now, but nothing has been mentioned about my speech impediment. So wait, that might not be the right word, about my stutter. I do not believe there is therapy for people who have speech issues. I don't think it has been created. I think that they will treat the symptoms of depression, anxiety, etc., instead of the actual meat and potatoes of it. And it's terrible, I think.
Yeah. And you know,
I agree with you 100% that it's not treated, and it's sad. I agree with you 100%.
yeah, and you know that is something that is you know, especially within the field, has been also been kind of a little bit of a hot topic, because you have a lot of speech therapists who believe, like, you know, oh, you know, we shouldn't be touching the counseling aspect of stuttering because we're not mental health professionals. And but I would argue, and I would say, I would rather my child go to a speech therapist who understands how to target the experience of stuttering over like, a psychologist or a counselor, because it's so different. It really is. But yeah, no, all these are great. And I just to echo what everybody said, I've had the same ex, 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 experiences with speech therapy as it sounds like everybody here has, all throughout school. Get pulled out and be in a room with my speech therapist, and she would have she had a list of sentences, or she would have printed off paragraphs and would highlight areas where she wanted me to use easy onset. And that's what I did the entire 30 minutes. And then it was back to class, and it wasn't helpful at all, at least in my opinion. So good. Yes, Judith.
Okay. Mama, my name's Judith Eckhart, and I'm talking to you from Tucson, but I'm really out of the Midwest, the Chicago, Wisconsin area. And I am like your history book of stuttering therapy, because I'm very old to begin with. So what I'd like to share is I've had therapy for my whole life. And I started out like with the Wendell Johnson Iowa therapy. And then I went to the Van Riper therapy, where I think a lot of you probably, where a lot of you are probably familiar with. And what really changed my life is in the 1980s, and I was thinking last night when Jim McClure was talking, somehow I found out about the National Stuttering Project and John Albach. And I made contact with them in California. Now, at that point in time, I was in the Chicago area. And when I went to my first convention, it was probably in 1990, and I heard all these people to talking and stuttering. I was just amazed. Nobody was really using easy onsets, prolongations, light contacts. So that exposed me to the SSMP program from Washington State. And being a speech pathologist, I went as a graduate student one summer, and Dorvin Breidenfeld, who's a person who stutters, who just turned 96 years old, just within the last month, challenged me at that point in time. And he said, "How would you like to work on your speech?" So I worked on my speech, and what it involved, I knew all the fluency techniques and stuff, but he got me into advertising, telling the world that I stuttered, and using voluntary stuttering. And guess what? That's what gave me the amount of fluency that I have. Never had I had that kind of role model before, and I could never measure up. So I know where you're coming from, going to speech, working on easy onsets, pullouts, that kind of thing. But it was when I got into advertising and telling the world that I stuttered, and I still use voluntary stuttering all the time. And like Pam, I have been I have been a Toastmaster and went through the Toastmaster program for several years. And finally, they told me to stop talking about stuttering in my speeches. So Tucson's very well educated about stuttering. So I thought I would share that, and I really thank you for doing this program.
That is awesome. It's so cool. And you've seen it too, the change in therapy over the years. So it's really cool to have your perspective. So
Thank you.
thank you. Yeah. Yeah. And advertising too, we can definitely talk about that as we kind of move on, because that is something I would want to bring up too. So we have another person with their hand raised. Sayon, is that how you say your name?
Nancy.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I wonder if you can hear me. If you can hear me, Lauren.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I mean, mean, I think, I would have actually I would have actually been shell shocked as a young, as 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 a boy, like just realizing that I was realizing that I was around mm, around the people that actually that actually mm, that I mean that actually had a speech had a speech impediment because because like while I was while I was while I was growing up, like I don't like mm, I don't really think that I don't really think that my parents like ever knew anything about the National Stuttering Association. Like and and the main focus with me was like whenever I would go to have my speech therapy was like 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 was just simply like try to hide like what was just simply trying to just mask the fact that I have to mask the fact that I have a speech impediment of which I did not of which by the time I would actually get home from school, I didn't really do a good job with. Anyways, I mean, but I like, like, but my first, but I feel like that. I feel like my first. I feel like my first universe as well as like one of my dad's first friends must have actually must have actually must have actually known 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 about known about my speech impediment honestly because because like I because I think I must have like heard like so many like like so many conversations. Like I mean, like like having other like having other people like tell my parents concerning me. Perhaps I should like mm, go do sign language or like do this, do that. I mean, but then mm, 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 but then like 2 years ago, I actually went I actually probably took the probably took maybe the hardest like one of them. I mean, I took like the most hardest exam that I mean, probably the most important exam that I would ever take, and it was it was based upon an obsession that I've had since I was like really small about hearing train conductors over the public intercom, and I actually took that exam. I mean, and while I know that I passed it, like I have I mean like like seeing as how the previous person was going to be kept open. I just decided to just decided to to really like like mm, to to really like focus on how best I should really speak honestly honestly but honestly hmm, hmm, honestly, and I'm not really sure that there was. I mean, and I think that I, besides, I think that my mom must have like sought counsel from like other people, like concerning like what's what's to do ab- about me being being speech challenged, I mean, but even then, I'm not really sure that it has been such an help. Honestly, I mean, probably the biggest help has been to just do. I mean, just probably do mm, do the hardest and probably the hardest thing that I would ever ever do like during like during like during my lifetime, and that is like in regards to being a train conductor with announcing stops over the public intercom system to be to be to be fair.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Um, great. So so our next, well, honestly, we kind of talked a lot about this. But I didn't really, I don't think we really actually, yeah, no, we touched on this. So I think we can skip this one. I don't know, Lauren, if you feel like we need to talk about.
I feel like we kind of covered quite a bit here.
Yeah.
I did want to say super quickly. I liked how you said that education piece about your parents. That was super great. That's something I wanted to talk about later on. And then also the topic of masking and how I think sometimes when we're doing these, when some people are doing these fluency strategies and everything, it's almost a way to mask their true self or mask their speaking rather than just speaking how they were supposed to speak, kind of thing. So I think that was a very interesting point that you brought up. So
Um, So we 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 were just curious, for those of you who've had speech therapy, both positive and negative, we were just curious as to what did that initial conversation with your speech pathologist look like? Did they talk to you about the approach to therapy? Did they collaborate with you on goals? If you're a parent in 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 the group, has your school speech therapist talk to you about how they approach speech therapy with your child? So we were just curious if in the group, if your speech therapist is having these conversations with you. Yeah, Annabelle.
So for me, so like uh, as an adult, when I was trying to find speech therapy services again, um, I called several different providers and I explained to them that I was having struggles with having new trigger words, not being able to just recognize my voice or just recognize how I was talking because it was just so new to me, and I was having trouble just feeling comfortable speaking. um and then that previously, all of the fluency strategies that I was using and that I just wanted to be able to speak the way that I used to speak before. Every single one of the speech language pathologists, except one, said yes, we can definitely work on practicing for you to speak how you used to speak before. We can work on different fluency strategies, pausing, um, trying to change, trying to change, trying to change the tone of your voice, or like trying to speak so like in a lower in a slower rhythm. And only one speech provider said, "What else is out of your control?" And that was American Institute of Stuttering. And I had my first session with my speech therapist, and I explained to her everything that was going on. And then I told her about my goals regarding speech therapy, and that I wanted to be able to just have some type of control over my speech because I was having so many new trigger words, um, uh, uh, a lot of new disfluency moments. So like I wasn't recognizing myself. And I say this to almost everyone who I speak to regarding my current speech therapy services. My speech therapist heard everything I couldn't say to myself, or like I couldn't say to her. And because she was able to just hear the struggles that I couldn't even acknowledge that I was having, and she asked me so many questions that like really made me think and be like, oh my God, wait, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I trusted her that first session. And if you know me, you know how hard it is for me to open up to people, for me to trust, for just me to like be vulnerable. But because she heard everything I couldn't say for myself, we began to learn, well, I began to learn how to say it. Because because for the speech therapy services, we're not even talking about fluency. We're not even talking about triggers. we are literally talking about the emotional aspects, the mental aspects. And if I tell her that I have a trigger word and that this has been just challenging me, every other speech therapist will tell you, let's try different ways to lessen the trigger word. Let's try ways to control the trigger. She told me, let's do the biggest block, the biggest prolongation, the biggest disfluency moment for that trigger word, and let's do it in every sentence. I was like, huh? And it took me a little minute because it's like, what do you mean? You want me to stutter on purpose and stutter hard? It's like you don't want me to like control it, do I'm a use my Excel to like say it fluently. And she said, no, let's do your hardest stuttering moments. And by doing that, I began to be able to play with my stutter, because I think that as a person who stutters, you always have that fear regarding your hardest stuttering moments. You always fear that someday you won't be able to push through that this fluent moment, and like you're gonna have the longest block, the longest prolongation, just basically the the longest this fluent moment that you can fear. Instead of her just saying, we can do some things to lessen that fear, she said, let's go to that fear. Let's see what it actually is. And doing it, it wasn't as scary as I thought it was. And we did it gradually in several sessions. And I realized that in all of my speech therapy services, no one has ever just said, let's stutter the hardest you can. Everyone is always, we can talk about strategies to decrease that. But when you allow someone to just stutter and like try the biggest fears, that allows them to be like, oh, I was able to do this and it wasn't that bad, so now I can play with it. And then for her, she like allows me to do it throughout different levels. So like I can go to my highest stuttering moments, my lowest stuttering moments, kind of a little bit, and then we just change stuff. So that's been really beneficial and very helpful for me.
CJ, you want to go first?
Sorry. No, I was going to say, we have Pam, go ahead.
Yeah.
I just have to say, based on what Annabelle just said, for a number of years, I volunteered and went into middle schools and did presentations about bullying, and I used stuttering as my example, obviously, because I could relate to that. And one of the things that I did with the kids, so middle school, so 5th, 6th, 7th grade, one of the things that I did during those presentations to get them comfortable about talking about stuttering was I did contests with them. And I asked the kids to do the loudest stuttering that they could, do the longest stuttering that they could, the weirdest stuttering that they could, and they loved it because it made it comfortable and easy to talk about. Usually there wasn't many kids in the class that actually stuttered, but once in a while there was, and it made it so much easier for that child to then be able to react or talk about stuttering because it was brought up in a very, very fun, threatening way. So I just loved Annabelle's example, and it immediately brought that back into something that I did with kids to just normalize it.
I was gonna say, yeah, I think all of those are awesome. Super, super cool ways. Super what's the word I'm looking for? Related to kind of what we're gonna talk about upcoming here too. So and we have one more hand if you want to go ahead.
Okay, so like, okay, now, now, like, I have had, mean, now, now, when I was actually, I was actually growing up, like, my, like, like, mm, my parents were like told, I mean, like, so, I mean, like, 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 when I was growing up, like, like one of the things that was actually taught when one of the things that was spoken about in was about ways to more or less to more or less like more or less um, wasn't the wasn't the fact that I am that I am made them more or less speech challenged. It it was not until my from it was not until I had already spent I'd already that I'd already like spent some time going to my alma mater in Bremen that mean that mean that I returned doing doing ST, and when I returned to and when I came when I came back to us like like that was like when like some of the some of the intricacies regarding anything regarding like light contacts, easy onset, easy onset, and, and like and like and like like and things like voluntary stuttering like really started to like take shape, honestly, because honestly right. And in, in, and believe there was one ST that had I mean like that actually challenged me one day to actually do to actually just to actually just to just I mean bring out my speech impediment willy nilly like I was some sort of a sailor. Honestly, I mean, and I and I have never ha- I've mean, and I've never really had a speech therapist that was like so it's like so it was like so open to like so open to me having having me just stutter like just stutter like a sailor. Now mean, mean now it's mm, now it now now it was not until I had already had already left college that that I started to like delve into I mean that 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 a speech therapist that I had started to have me delve more into this iceberg that is called the National Stuttering Association, and mean, and and I think that and honestly, like mean, mm, mean, I know, like I I only had like a few people like mean like like I've only had maybe like three people around me that actually had actually a speech had a speech im, a speech im, a speech impediment. The the most like most mm, most prominent of which was in one of my English classes, and I didn't even know. So and didn't even know know she was actually struggling with her speech until I heard her speak to her own people in in Al in Albanian, and so it was. I mean, honestly, I would. Mm, mean, mean, honestly, like mm, now. Mean, now the next. Now my current ST that I have, she she had spoken to me about like what ab, about the about like um, about like what what she wanted to what she wanted to work work with me on in response to like getting better with my speech and so in and so and so far like I think that we're like trying to make some progress in some sort of a progress uh, mm, to be to be fair to you, Lauren. I mean, and I just hope. Mm, and I think that. I mean, and I mean, and she was really open with me with regards to to what I would really want. I with what I would really mm, to want to do concerning my speech.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really great to be open for sure. Um, Judith, you want to go ahead?
I would just like to add one comment, and if you don't mind, I'm going to put on my therapy hat here. What I think speech and language pathologists should do when they first start working with a person who stutters, talking to teachers, talking to parents, is come up or to say the thought, it's not your fault that your child stutters. It's not his fault that or her fault that she or he stutters. Because if you can instill that, you're going to eliminate of shame and avoidance behaviors. And and I just think at the very beginning of therapy, introducing yourself to a person who stutters, you should just overtly say, it's not your fault that you stutter. So that's all I have to say on that.
Yeah, that's perfect. I think every SLP, if there are other SLPs in here, super important to when you start out therapy. I always like to give the cold, hard facts because they are facts. You can't change them. And that is a fact that it's not anyone's fault at all. So, yeah. Darnell said he had a question. So, whenever you are ready, you can go ahead and ask that.
Thanks again, Lauren. I do apologize for joining late. I just got, excuse me, I just got off a call with uh, I was a professional development call. But yes, I have a quick question. So for working professionals, aspiring leaders, in companies and teams, I would like to know if there's any, stories or any, potential case studies involving them trying to seek, uh, you know, uh, therapy, in regards to, them being successful in the workplace, because I do see myself as, excuse me, I do see myself as an aspiring leader in fintech. Will love to work for Apple someday, but to be honest, I'm on the job search now, trying to transition from part time to full time, and I just don't see that visibility. I'm not sure if I mean, it's coming from personal experience, or maybe they're just not comfortable or willing to be forthcoming about all that. But it can cause me to be a little demoralized, because there's a lot of negative stereotypes involving this, right? And for big companies such as Apple, and and for elsewhere, I'm just trying to stay positive and trying to stay motivated towards my career goals, because I'm currently, excuse me, I'm currently working on a case study, and there's some communication issues involved that theoretically didn't involve people that stutter at all. And so it completely affirms my belief is that I can be successful in the industry, because these people, they end up taking off. They they work on teams, and they push terrible products, and then this blows up. And then I'm thinking to myself, I have these ideas, I have the this potential, and I have some that I have aspiring talent, but I'm being told I can't succeed in leading these teams. But these people can, but they're losing money. And just I just it's just frustrating to me is that there's a lot of gatekeeping involved. And so that's why I was trying to join calls such as this, and to just be more involved in the community itself, because uh to me, visibility is important, and it would have allowed me to be in a better mindset in the past. Like, if I had seen this a lot sooner, I think I would be leading teams at Apple right now,
Yeah. So first of all, before I kind of respond, Pam did put in the chat, the NSA has a really great, I'll just say the NSA has a wealth of resources on stuttering in the workplace. I knew that specific like part of the NSA does a ton there. So I would really recommend checking out that. But I think, and CJ, if you want to add anything too, I think, being very honest and upfront about it can actually help, and it can appear as a little bit more confident too. And that is something that if you don't feel as comfortable with, if you are interested in therapy, obviously taking into account everything we've talked about today, finding a speech therapist who really values that counseling aspect, and making sure we're no longer having fear about stuttering, that could potentially help out with you too.
Yeah.
Hope that helps.
And just to add in there, and to validate, and to validate, because that's a very real assessment and fear. I mean, and I know I've had those thoughts in my mind, especially prior to going through graduate school. I had that thought of like, how can I be how can I be a speech therapist who stutters? Like, how can I help other people speak and this was my thought, when I can't speak myself. And and I had amazing speech pathologist who she's actually, I think she's in here now, but who helped me recognize that I think our biggest barrier to being successful is ourselves. And there have been some recent research studies, and I won't nerd out too much on the research, but there was a recent study that was done actually from Dr. Dr. Rogers, with the University of Iowa, and she looked at how high schoolers, how prepared they felt. And well, they studied high schoolers and then young adults who stutter, and they looked at how prepared they felt for post high school life and entering into the workplace. And the majority of people who stutter in that study like reported similar feelings about their ability to succeed in life. They felt that that stuttering itself hindered their ability to succeed. So, but no, my only thing to add to that was that I think the biggest dark cloud to that is your own mind. But yeah, no, this is great. Here, let's go. We can move on. So we wanted to add this part in there for those of us in here who might not even know what counseling is and how is counseling used in speech therapy. So, and Lauren, please feel free, Lauren, please feel free to just kind of chime in. But I thought I'd just kind of give just a brief overview of just the interventions counseling wise that speech therapists can incorporate into speech therapy. So for starters, some of them include things like cognitive behavioral therapy, which is essentially helping an individual understand their thoughts and their feelings, and how their thoughts and their feelings impact their behaviors and their actions and so forth, while also exploring like the past and talking about the trauma piece that Annabelle had mentioned in the chat, like exploring that and talking through those events that happened in your life that are influencing why you're feeling the way you're feeling. So that's that. And then some other ones would be solution focused therapy, which is essentially, okay, we've talked about the past. Now what can we do to help you achieve your goals and help you feel more comfortable going through the drive-through, or help you feel more comfortable going to that interview, and so forth. And mindfulness, overall cognitive reframing, helping an individual at least not view stuttering as a negative aspect, and at least be more neutral about their stutter. Like Lauren had said at the beginning, you don't have to love your stutter, but at least shouldn't have to hate it at the same time, and so forth. And obviously there's a lot more to it, but that's just a brief overview of just kind of what stuttering is. What counseling when it comes to stuttering therapy is. So for those of you in here who have mentioned that they are looking for speech therapy, or at some points in their life they had been looking for speech therapy, what kind of goals would you have for yourself if counseling is that route that you want to take? Like what about stuttering and the experience of stuttering do you want to try and improve on? Pam?
Yeah, so my question is, how does that even come up? Like, how would a client know to even inquire about including counseling in what may traditionally look at mechanical, speech techniques? Like, how would that even come up? Does the therapist bring it up, or how would you even recommend that conversation even start?
Yeah, so always I always I I I I always tell people that they should take the initiative when it comes to the therapy that they are ultimately paying for. So to answer your question, I think, well, sorry, so back up. I think that brings up kind of a bigger issue when it comes to like that education piece that was mentioned earlier. I think certainly just getting the word out there that counseling when it comes to therapy, and that therapy does not have to be strictly drill based where we're just teaching strategies, and that there are other options. I think that is what needs to be put out there more. And it is being put out there. I see it all the time. But and this is something that I had done recently, because I was I was I was talking about this with a colleague of mine, and even today when you Google I stutter, what do I do? Or, you type in my kid stutters, how can I help? The first things that come up include talk to your local speech therapist and they can teach your son strategies. There are links to, stuttering therapy programs that are fluency focused. Like those are the first things that pop up. So, and that's a great question. I feel like, it's still kind of a work in progress getting the masses on board with embracing more counseling within stuttering therapy. I don't know, Lauren, if you had anything else to add, or even Judith, since you're our seasoned speech pathologist.
Me personally, CJ, I don't really have anything to add. I think it's really, like you said, that education piece of it. And I know we said this before, but there's been such a shift in the stuttering world recently. We're getting so much more research about kids who grew up with fluency strategies and how they're not working out, and it's actually making them build up their iceberg, which is something I wanted to talk about too. But yeah, I think it's really just that education piece. I was gonna say, if I wanted to add one more thing, so the one that CJ had asked here, the what kind of goals would you have for yourself if counseling is part of the route you want to take? I wanted to add that one of the things, if there are any SLPs in here, but one of the things I ask when I am doing an evaluation is if you woke up tomorrow and you did not have a stutter, what would you do? How would you feel? And that right there, their answers can kind of gear how I start therapy. So, like, if they say, if I woke up tomorrow and I didn't have a stutter, I would feel okay going through a drive through, or I would feel happier, or or I wouldn't get nervous to say my name. That is just the kind of stuff that I can kind of gear therapy towards to make that person feel more comfortable. Because as we said before, stuttering is not something that can be quote unquote cured. So I think that's a good point. So.
For me, so I would like to chime in. When I do cross that threshold, in terms of trying to get into leadership, I definitely would see myself searching for a speech language pathologist that also stutters too, for that shared experience. Because I'm really trying to shy away from the whole fluency aspect, because for all of us, it's a spectrum, right? Now, for me, it's right now it's H's, it's R's, and the next days is something else. So yeah, I think involving just that shared experience would be important for me. And also I would say someone that's also being successful in terms of their sessions involving clients that is also part of the industry too. So actors, entertainers, like I said, CEOs. So someone with experience is also important, because if they don't, then it's hard for me to justify the investment, because these services, it's pretty expensive. And I'm always thinking about, okay, is this worth me spending money on? Because money doesn't grow on trees. And then I'm thinking to myself, if I'm not getting the services I need, then I need to be seeking something else, right?
Yep. No, and that's something, and I I tell people all the time that, finding, because yeah, like you said, speech therapy is not, it's not a cheap service. And And while a lot of insurance companies are getting better at covering speech therapy services, there are still, and I have ran into this issue in the outpatient setting where there are um, where there are some insurance companies that are denying stuttering therapy claims. So yeah, and that's why, and that's why I say speech therapists are no different than your doctor, your vet, you got to shop around. If you meet one and they like how Annabelle had said, if they're not aligning with your goals, then go check out another one. And speaking of Annabelle, go ahead.
So like I wanted to give some more I guess some more experience because I am currently doing the counseling and communication and mm, my speech therapy services. So like for me, every time I thought about counseling, it was always I'm gonna need to talk about my feelings. And as a person who stutters, you don't want to talk because then that means you're gonna stutter talking. So doing this current speech therapy services that includes counseling and communication, we're not in a way talking about my feelings, but I am being more aware about my emotional awareness about my feelings. So for example, I was telling my speech therapist, so like a few weeks ago, I have been blocking so much. What is going on? Normal speech therapy service, they would be like, are you stressed? Was it a stressful situation? Did you do something before? Did anything trigger it? She asked me, what are you running from when you're blocking? So like it's about yourself. It's about what is going through your mind, and it's not about everything else outside, because that question was never asked of me. And when she asked me that question, I had to sit in silence because it's like I was always knew that she was going to say, oh, so we can talk about the situation where you tense. But there was nothing about tensing. It was about what are you running away from in that moment? And I realized I'm running away from the silence. I'm running away from being seen as if I can't breathe, as if I'm choking, as if I need help. So, like, I am pushing through those moments because I refuse to feel that feeling. But by being able to see it, process it, and kind of understand it, I am able to, like, in different situation, understand what I am feeling and why. Because it's like you can tell someone you could be tensing in different situations, but it's like you're tensing for a reason. When you're tense, it's because you're fearing something. So it's like she digs deep. And because she digs deep, I'm able to be like, wait, that's a good question. And because she is giving me those insights, I can see so much more about how stuttering has, it's not even the actual stuttering, but like my perception about stuttering throughout my life has affected me, and I never realized it until I began to actually just say things, and then she asked me deeper questions in that thing that really was like, oh, okay, let's talk about it. So I think people think that counseling is about like talking about your feelings, but like from my experience, it's more about you're telling your counselor or even your speech therapist about your problem. You think it is the problem, but it's only so like a surface problem. And when you get deep in there, that just really shows you what you were trying to say, but maybe that you didn't know how to say it.
Yeah. And you know, just to say, you know, I think there is a perception of, you know, talk therapy, and there's lots of people that are like, "Oh, what? Like, I don't, you know, talking about my feelings." But you know, as somebody who went through speech therapy that was very much counseling based, having talking about stuttering to somebody in a way that you have likely probably never talked to other people about stuttering before, can really be, I mean, and not to sound you know, kind of over dramatic, but it could really be life changing. So that's why we really push for counseling. Rob, Rob, you have your hand up. Oh, looks like you're muted.
Rob, can you hear us? Did you still want to ask a question? So maybe we'll go back to him.
Gotcha. All right. So that kind of brings us to our main point of the evening, and our last kind of segue is, well, how do I bring this up to my SLP? So Lauren and I have kind of brainstormed just some practical questions that you can ask your speech therapist when you meet them. And just like with Annabelle, like when you are on the phone and you call a outpatient clinic, or you call that private practice, or you're talking to your school speech therapist, you know, some of the questions that you can simply ask them is, what experiences with stuttering therapy do you have? You know, and it's one of those things that, you know, I, even with colleagues at the school that I work at, I have speech therapy colleagues who have been practicing for 20 plus years, who will say straight up that, you know, oh yeah, I've only had like maybe a handful of people who stutter on my caseload. So I don't really, that's like, and that's like kind of afterthought to them. And it just kind of blows my mind when I hear that kind of stuff. So I think just asking them, like, what experiences with stuttering therapy do you have? How do you approach it? You know, what are your thoughts on counseling-based therapy? I think, and have you been, or are you involved with the stuttering community?
Okay.
Oh, there he is.
Oh,
Hey,
okay.
Rob.
I'm sorry, guys. You got me?
Yep,
Okay.
yep, I
No,
got you.
no. I just wanted to just say, having, you know, speech therapy I mean, I mean, forever. Um, my job is I'm a middle school assistant principal, plus I'm a varsity football coach. And the biggest thing that I found is if you just own your stutter, it 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 makes a world of difference. I mean, it really does. And it took me years, and I've only been owning it for about probably I don't know, 2 or 3 years only. But if you just own it, it just works. I mean, so much better. And and I, my thing is too is I've mentioned this in the past. It's the the mental aspect of it is so important. And but yeah, I I just I guess I just want to say the one thing that's really helped me is just if you own it, if you disclose it, and you don't hide from it, it makes your life a whole lot easier. I mean, I'm just gonna say, yeah, at least it's been mine, and it took me forever. I'm not gonna, say that, but so yeah, that's all I just wanted to say. And the mental aspect is it's it's huge. It's absolutely huge. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. So all right, and thanks for doing this because this is good.
Thank you. No, thank thank you for sharing. And that kind of just drives home that point that I tell people all the time, your biggest enemy is your own mind
Oh,
when it comes to
absolutely,
stuttering. Yeah. And
absolutely.
but at the same time, like like it's stuttering is not easy, and living in a world that values fluency is not easy as a person who stutters. So yeah. So with that being said, um, you know, asking some of these questions to your speech therapist, like in Annabelle's situation, can really help weed out, um, you know, what that speech therapist values and their approach to working with people who stutter. Because unfortunately, I think while the field is moving in a great direction, and it's even in the last like 3 years since I've gotten into the field, like I've seen it continuously progress, and there's a lot of research coming out. There's still a pretty good percentage of speech therapists out there who their main approach to stuttering is just that fluency focused. I don't know, Lauren, do you have anything else to add?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. And I feel like that kind of starts to wrap things up here too. Yeah, that's a perfect place to end. I don't think we have anything else, correct?
No, just the resources.
Yeah.
So these are some, if for those of you out there who, like in the chat, we're looking for some information. These are some good things to look at. So if you want to, take a picture of this, I believe this whole thing will be on the NSA YouTube page, so you guys will have that. But while we're kind of here, does anybody else have anything they'd like to talk about, they'd like to add or ask or anything?
If I could for a
Yeah.
moment. So my name's Brianna. My 7-year-old son has a stutter. So I jumped on here to just kind of get some information. It's been great to hear from adults who have lived with a stutter their whole life, and how counseling can help, and how the fluency strategies are, while they're, still something that they're still using in therapy. We have an outside stuttering specialist that Benji sees once a week, And she is a big supporter of that counseling piece, even though he's only 7. And so this has been wonderful. I just want to say thank you to everybody that shared their stories, because it's helping, that next generation too. So thank you.
Yeah. And I tell people all the time too that like that counseling piece that can be incorporated like even in preschool age kids, because they're like preschool age kids a lot of times like the stuttering will affect them um emotionally. Like we see kids that that experience that frustration with stuttering, the shame, embarrassment, like that's all still there. So yeah, no, that's awesome that's 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 awesome that you have a speech therapist who's well versed in the counseling aspect. Great.
Well, I would just like to echo the final thoughts here. This was a great session, and you certainly covered a lot of ground, and it's been very helpful for everybody, people who stutter, parents, speech language pathologists, to just even know that counseling during therapy is an option, is a thing, and thank you for introducing ways that clients and parents can bring it up, and normalize it, because that's the key. Sayon, you have your hand raised. We'll take your comment as our final comment before we wind down.
Okay. Like, mean, 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 I just, mean, mean, I've, I've, mean, I find it hard to, mean, I've, mean, I find it really awesome that, mean, that, that there is, that's that's the counseling is, 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 is perhaps like is perhaps what could, what could, what what could be necessary. mean, 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 but even though it's, mean, it, even though I found this, even though I found this connect to be really, 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 really informative, much more, mm, much more, much more inspiring, like hearing from what you were trying to from what you were like trying to say, and and Annabelle, I feel like, like what I like what I think, um, is, is, what I really think is that, is 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 that there should there should probably be more people just finding out about, mm, just finding out the about the about the NSA in general, honestly, because, like, because I have, because I've, like, because I have, because I think that, like, like, because I think that it should perchance be be like be like more of an but be more of an option be more of an option than to actually to actually point to actually point people people tolerance. And I think I would like to thank CJ as well. I think that CJ must have left, but I think I would like to thank him, to thank to thank you since you since CJ as well as as well as Lauren for at least like like doesn't mean like share like whatever it is I actually thought and concerning all concerning this concerning this concerning this aspect of of I mean of more or less living with a speech impediment.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, and again, thank you all for joining. I think this was a very much needed topic that so I'm glad. Thank you, Lauren, for agreeing to do this with me. And I hope you all have a great night.
Yep. And again, thank you, Lauren and CJ, and for everybody that shared and participated tonight.